So I did that event and then had the espresso machine, and everyone in the building was like, you have an espresso machine and a roaster, you should start serving coffee. And I was like, I don't know how to do coffee. I don't know how to cafe. My name is Elliot Reinecke. I am from Maryland originally. My wife and I, after we graduated college, we lived in Costa Rica for a couple of years, just surfing and kind of traveling around Central America. And when we went back to the East Coast, we just hated the winters there and wanted a life where we could use our college degrees and still surf and continue doing that. So we packed up the car in winter and drove across country, a Volkswagen Golf. Started racing mountain bikes after a couple of years and turned pro and toured the country doing that for 3 or 4 years. And then that's how I kind of learned about coffee more. I always loved coffee, would drink 2 or 3 cups of it, mostly from Starbucks or whatever, and I would put cream and sugar in it, and I just kind of enjoyed the beverage and the ceremony and and everything that went with it. When I would travel the country, I'd get into another city, I would go to every cafe that I could and try all of their as many coffees as I kind of could, and then started brewing at home, buying different roasters from all over the country, and brewing it with different techniques, trying French presses and pour overs and AeroPresses and cold brew and the Japanese sock style. Just kind of tried doing everything, which eventually led to getting a little home roaster. It was a Gene Cafe. They're a piece of shit. Everyone who wants to start roasting at home, don't buy a Gene Cafe. Buy a popcorn popper or something, but not a Gene Cafe, or come to the Collective. Just come to the Collective, don't buy a roaster. At that time too, as racing, I was also working in the cycling industry, and I saw the cycling industry, everyone just making these lateral moves, and I was like, I don't want to work in the bicycle industry forever and just keep bouncing around, I kind of just was like, maybe I'll just start to do this for fun. So talked Ellen, my wife, into splitting or she bought it actually, a roaster off of eBay that could do 2 kilos from this guy up in Wisconsin. And then I built a little shed behind our house and put it in there just to kind of start learning how to manipulate the flavor profile of coffee by roasting it, I guess, and learning the whole process of everything. And it was sure, if I sell some bags to friends and family, over a couple months, I'll pay the roaster off in 5, 6, 8 years maybe, I don't know. Didn't really have a full plan yet. At the time, there was literally no coffee in Carlsbad that was specialty coffee. So that's kind of where I was like, oh, Carlsbad would be cool. But then I was literally just looking on Craigslist for a small space to move the roaster out of the shed, because I can only roast when everyone's at work. What if this really starts to do something? How do I put it in the bags? This is probably illegal, I don't know. So then we got a shared space where we leased 200 square feet in a 10,000 square foot building with a bunch of other makers and artists and stuff. And I was like, hey, if I just sell, same idea, a couple more bags to friends and family, I'll do something, yeah, sure. So then at the same time, I got a gig. There's a 3-day bicycle festival in Monterey at the Laguna Seca Raceway. And one of the places I worked for, I got a contract to serve espresso at the event, where we don't charge customers, it's free for customers, but we serve the espresso to get people to come into the tent and look at the bikes and stuff. And that allowed me to buy an espresso machine. And then took the barista level 1 training class through the SCA, which was 3 days up north, and I learned how to make espresso because I really only kind of barely knew how to roast coffee at the time, and then just kept reading books. So I did that event and then had the espresso machine, and everyone in the building was like, you have an espresso machine and a roaster, you should start serving coffee. And I was like, I don't know how to do coffee. I don't know how to cafe. Don't you have to have baristas or something? Health department stuff? I know you need a 3-compartment sink somewhere. We don't have anything like that. So I asked a bunch of friends that worked for the city and that kind of knew what's right and what's wrong, and they were all like, just do it until someone says you can't do it. So we just did it for almost 2 years, 1.5 years or 2 years, and served coffee illegally there. It was so stressful though, because we're there under the radar. I had a business license and things, but then Carlsbad magazine, I think, was one of the first things where in the middle spread full 2-page shot of our space in there, and literally old people coming in looking at the catalog oh, this must be the coffee spot. I'm like, oh great, we're gonna get shut down any day now, We were Zagat's top 10 coffee shops in San Diego. We won, we got 2nd and 3rd place while we were there in nationwide roasting competitions, and a few other accolades too while we were there. Because I operated as a cart, so I had to buy water every day, like jugs of water every day. We had a super small refrigerator, had to buy milk every day. And it was, I only operated like 3 days a week at first, like, or 4 days maybe. I think it was Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday or something at like 9:30 to 12:30, or no, it was probably 8 to 12:30, and then I would go to another job, and then it eventually kind of got a little bit of traction, and then I hired my first employee, Ashley, who worked with me for like 3 years, I think. We operated there for about a year, and like a year into it, I was like, okay, I think I see that there's a potential to do this as like a small business. I've always had like little side hustles, I guess they call them now. We used to call them gigs, they call them hustles now. And I wrote a business plan, an actual one, sent it to some like friends and colleagues to review before I started sending it out to try to raise some money, because we had saved some money doing that, but build outs are very expensive. I was looking for a better spot than our current location, and no one, when you're small and don't have a good name, nobody wants to lease you any kind of building. So owner of this building, Darren, was super cool. I looked at it for like 3 months driving by, like still for lease, right? This spot. Eventually then, around that time, Len and Dave came on as business partners as like a business, and we got a little influx of money, which allowed us to buy a larger roaster and move our roaster like from the cafe setting to a separate warehouse, because it's cool, I think, to have like the roaster in the cafe and everything, but it's kind of like overdone, and roasters are dirty, they're hot. Like if you actually want to focus on roasting coffee, it's like not an ideal situation. So we decided at that point to like separate the two, like have cafe nice, clean, focus on drinks and customer service, and roaster focus on roasting in a separate area. So having that roasting facility separate, it's allowed us to like have two businesses and at the same time like grow our whole roasting operation. So now we have like 6 roasters, and the whole idea too was we're like, I'm 5 years, well, technically like 7 years in, and we still only have one cafe. The whole goal with starting was, I saw all these other cafes, they would start out, they do great, their coffee was awesome, then they'd open 3 more cafes, and then everything sucked. Their employees are unhappy, they're underpaid, their coffee isn't as good, they've lost all the focus on everything that they were doing. So our whole goal has always been to kind of grow slow and focus on the people and the quality and everything. We were originally called Boogie Beans. It was kind of decided after like a year that if we wanted to be perceived as more like, I guess, professional or more of like a player in the industry, we should be something more, a little bit more formal. Steady State comes from a few things. It comes from, like I said, a cycling background. And I didn't want it to be focused in like just cycling only. So Steady State's a zone that you train in a lot. Our first location is, and we still are, on State Street. And then it's kind of just an overall like general way to look at life with the scientific term that like there's never much change and always constant. So that's kind of the main 3 reasons.
Where do you see Steady State going?
Well, I don't want to share with no, because I do have a plan. We do have a plan, but I don't want to tell people because they'll maybe follow what we do or something too. So, but what I'll tell you, because you're a friend, but what we want to do, we want to